And after everyone is done, we'll have a Q&A session or whatnot. So this is going to be the order. We'll have L. Nicole Stringfellow of Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, Mississippi. Then Elizabeth Brewington from the North Carolina Council of Churches. Dr. Janet Cordovez of Interfaith America. And to round us out, we'll have Reverend Dr. Michael Elam of the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. So first up, El Nicole. Let's go. Give it up for her.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm El Nicole Stringfellow, Regional Vice President with Together for Hope for the Delta region, and I'm also the Executive Director of Fabric Incorporated, a nonprofit in Mississippi. We ready? All right, I'll be talking to you today about our Closer Walk Interfaith Health Initiative and the lessons that I've learned so far. With the Closer Walk Health Initiative, we have over 100 surveys from faith leaders in Mississippi. We did focus groups and we had asset-based community development sessions. And there are a couple of lessons that I really learned that I do want to share with you. We're gonna have fun with this. When we talk about faith, there are 3 points with faith. All of the faith communities that did talk with us, they talked about peace, purpose, and good health. So remember that peace, purpose, and good health is not denominational, it's faith. That's where they go to their entity to make sure we're looking for peace, purpose, and good health. Faith is all around us. It's what we believe, a higher being, what we know will take us or get us into a better place and a better position. So faith is all around us. We cannot avoid it. You may not think that you are a follower of a faith, even if you don't subscribe particular things, there is faith within all of us. In our faith, we have a blending of culture and tradition. And so in our cultures and traditions, some of the things that we started finding out from our faith leaders is there are things that are passed down within faith or within religion or within practices, theories. It also aligns with culture and faith. And some of the things may, how would you say, advance stigma or have a stigma component to it in some of the traditions that are passed down. We come together, we praise, we worship. We may sit in peace. We may sit in a particular position. We may work on slowing down our mind so that we can make a connection with whoever our higher being is. Those are some of the things that we learned in our faith leader. Also, with our faith leaders, they stand firm in their faith. Remember, one of the things we talked about was our faith leaders, some of the things that we're passing down beside the recipes, beside the particular traditions, are we passing down things that also fuel stigma and that also put particular mindsets on the forefront of what is truly the foundational principles of the religion or the faith. Also, in our faith leaders, they talk to us about being strong in their faith, but also are they were they wavering in their faith? When wavering in our faith, you mean the data? We have to include science. So now are we talking about, do I pray about it? Or do I read what the statistics say? Do I pray about it? What is it? I'm healed, healthy, whole, and complete, but I still have to go to the doctor and I'm still on medicines. These are the things that we're hearing our faith leaders talk about. Also, with the things that are passed down in faith, someone talked about the stigma, the shame, the words, the terminology. And when we talk about HIV, you did this, you brought this on yourself, this is what you get. These are some of the terms, or these are some of the statements, even written information that was provided to us. But it all relates to stigma. Why should our people feel bad and I'm battling a health condition? These are the things that we're asking our faith leaders to think about. We are going from 50 shades of fake because we have to transition into the facts. Some of the facts that we have been basically receiving or going through and processing, trying to categorize it, is Oh my goodness, the Bible Belt. I said Mississippi. Don't drop your head because I said Mississippi. Mississippi is a part of the Bible Belt. If it's below the waist, southern states, all the states below the Bible Belt, we are not supposed to talk about it. Like one of the sisters mentioned earlier, we can't talk about it. It is suppressed. You don't talk about things outside of the house. You don't shame the family. And for black families, our faith leaders have told us, all we have is our name. And we don't need anything to bring our name to shame. So when we talk about mental discipline, the Bible Belt, we have been whooped by Jesus and the Bible Belt. So pertaining to mental discipline, then we transition into, we have to tuck. We have to do inclusion with sexual health. We have to put HIV with sexual health, and we hide it with, or tuck it with, other health disparities. Our faith leaders have told us, no, you can't come directly to us and talk about HIV. You just can't come to us with the word, remove the red ribbon. You must talk about all health disparities that may be impacting our communities. So we call it inclusion, and I call it tucking. When we talked about HIV, the first thing, oh, youth, oh, those young people? No, not the young people. It's for everybody. If you have the anatomy and the parts, and if you're using them, this conversation is for you. Wrong coupling. When we said HIV, we also heard, oh, LGBTQ. No, it does not go together like peanut butter and jelly and sausage and biscuit. It is not a couple. It is not a collaboration. No, HIV, and then we address LGBTQ or vice versa, but it's not a couple. The true voice in the church is not heard. The voices of the people are suppressed, especially the women, especially in the black men-led churches. This is what our data is showing us. Our church leaders are busy, so we have to go where? We have to go to the pew leaders. We have to go to the people that are in the ear of the faith leader, and that's just not church. When we talk about help me with my unbelief, trust. Do they trust me as the person leading the research because I do not have a position or a title? The fivefold ministry, am I in clergy? And yes, I'm a black woman, and I am approaching 95% black men that lead black churches, and I'm questioned because I have my place, if you can understand what I'm saying. Yes, it's still happening. We're moving forward. As we're moving forward in this research, we're still going to collect data, and we're also looking at the holistic approach, the mind, body, and the spirit. We're talking about mentally, physically, and emotionally. Access to who we serve. We're now encouraging our faith leaders to create a We'll create an assessment to get information from the congregation. We need their voice, we need their data so that church leaders will know what they need. We're educating our faith leaders, and yes, size does matter. Our church leaders said, you gotta meet with us in a smaller group, 3 to 5 people. We don't wanna be in a big space because some things we're not gonna talk about. And community health is public health, and the public is the one that comes to our communities of faith. I'm L. Nicole Stringfellow. Thank you. Damn, cut that buzz off. Okay. You did it.
We forgot to mention that in the app, if you could complete the evaluation survey for the first plenary discussion, you go back to the plenary in the app and click the link to complete the survey. It should take 2 minutes to complete. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. My name is Elizabeth Brewington. I'm with the North Carolina Council of Churches Partners in Health and Wholeness Program. So a little bit of context on the North Carolina Council of Churches. We were founded in 1935 to address racial inequality, and since then we've been working on many different justice issues through the lens of faith, such as creation care, immigration, farm worker ministries, LGBTQ+ rights, gun violence prevention, and currently we're working in the state of North Carolina about Medicaid expansion. So, like I said, the council was founded about 86 years ago. About 12 years ago, we launched the Partners in Health and Wholeness program to work with faith communities in their health ministries. We know that a lot of times, faith leaders are a connector to resources, educator, an advocate, and so we wanted to make sure they were equipped to talk about health and faith together. So PHW provides free resources to congregations to support their health programs and projects. We have a collaborative program where churches can join together and share ideas about what they're doing in their health ministries. And we offer an annual $1,000 mini grant to churches who are working on issues of health and faith together. We have a community mini grant for churches that want to work together, 3 churches, and that's up to $5,000. So PHW has been focused on health and wholeness, and historically that has looked like healthy eating, active living, mental health, tobacco cessation. And currently we are talking about healthy aging, mental health advocacy, helping denominations on their different projects around mental health and actually any health issues, the overdose crisis, and HIV advocacy and education. So our work around HIV began last year when we were so fortunate to become a transformative grant partner. We started with a listening tour survey to see what congregations in our network were currently doing and what resources were available to them. We then started collecting resources for our website. We have an interactive map where each of the 100 counties in North Carolina, we're trying to develop resources for faith communities to get there. We've also hosted a series of virtual events. We started off with a sacred conversation around stigma and talking about ways faith communities can be a welcoming and inclusive community and to reduce stigma. We've then expanded to talk about a variety of different intersections. And later this year, in September, we are going to have a Faith Health Summit, which is going to be an all-day event for anyone interested in health and faith to come and attend workshops, panels, exhibitors, and a worship service. And so that's where I'm going to end. We would love to have you there if you are in North Carolina. If not, we'd love to connect with you. Thanks.
Hola, bienvenidos. I am an interfaith leader. And an interfaith leader is an individual that engages across lines of secular, religious, spiritual, philosophical differences for the common good. More on the common good in just a moment. But it's an individual that engages all the differences, even and especially the differences we don't like. Naysayers and those that lose their spirit along the way, I mean, this is hard work. It's lofty. We'll say that it's impossible. But then I remember that at impossible is where my faith starts and my journey as an interfaith leader begins. So interfaith is about the interactions from people, between and among people who orient around religion differently. And this is what I and there's a team of us at Interfaith America do, and there are lots of co-conspirators with us. So how do we, in the most religiously diverse nation, bridge differences? Wow, that's a great question. Well, for one, we need to. We have to figure it out. We need to live with the people we defeat and work with the people we disagree with. And so, common good, it means so many different things to all of us. But this past year, the common good for me and my team was about the intersection between interfaith cooperation and HIV and AIDS. And so my intercultural, intergenerational, interfaith team, Reverend Don Abram, Noah Nakau and I jumped on the phone and emailed everyone we knew and said, we are partnering with the Faith Coordinating Center at Wake Forest Divinity School to destigmatize HIV and AIDS, minimize access, the barriers to access, and create spaces of belonging and community so that people could thrive. And as we reached out to HBCUs and HSIs in the South, I mean, we reached out to them multiple times. We're a gritty bunch. 14 campuses said yes to utilizing interfaith methodologies and pedagogies to leverage the religious social capital of their communities to meet their students, their community partners' needs. One of our partners at Morehouse, the brilliant Reverend Quincy Reinhardt, designed a Black queer curriculum. In that space, it was the focus was on the ethic of sexuality and sensuality. And through that conversation, the students, the faculty and staff engaged across lines of philosophical, ideological, political differences and created a space of belonging. That is interfaith engagement. Our partners at Tuskegee partnered with Dallas County at the Jubilee Selma Bridge Crossing to share pamphlets and brochures about the impact of the pandemic on HIV and AIDS within religiously diverse communities. That is interfaith engagement. Our partners at North Carolina Central University, Reverend Gloria Winston Harris, Dr. Heath Roderick, Dr. Annette Carrington, and Valerie Mayweather partnered, launched lunches, dinners, workshops, partnered with their faith leaders throughout the entire community and said, partner with us to reach our students and increase access to resources, destigmatize HIV and AIDS, and get a sense of confidence from knowing your status. They partnered with the Men's Achievement Center and their interfaith ambassadors, and they did a 2-day campaign on social media. That is interfaith engagement. Now, I know it's hard to believe that in these times, when so much negativity and binary conversations and hateful rhetoric are amplified, it's hard to visualize that we can even bridge differences or connect across lines of religious difference or create something more beautiful, but we can. Founder and president of Interfaith America says this: let's build more of the things we love to defeat the things we don't like. Let's build more of the things we love to defeat the things that we don't like. So are you an interfaith leader? I think so. Join us.
This is the forward, right?
Yes, try it.
Good afternoon. Namaste. The divinity in me salutes the divinity in you. Salbona. I see you. I value you. You are important to me. My name is Reverend Dr. Michael Elam, and I am the current chairperson of the Mary Russell Social Justice Institute as part of the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. From proclamation to practice. How did we get here? What was the reason for the Proctor Pride Prayer-demic, the PPP? Proctor went through, all of us experienced the pandemic, and Proctor created, Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference created the Prayer-demic and daily virtual prayer Monday through Friday, but it started in May. So when the new year 2021 came, there was Black History Month, there was Women's History Month. I sent a DM to Jerry Wright, who never looks at Facebook, who never checks her DM, but her spirit said, check the DM today. the very day I sent it. And she said yes, because I just wanted to do a week of Proctor Pride Prayerdemic. They talked about it, sent a proposal. A week went into a month, and then eventually went into 6 weeks of Proctor Pride Prayerdemic. And some people are in this room who are part of that historical project, and I'm grateful for that. In that, we had the Mary Russell Social Justice Institute, and the Mary Russell Social Justice Institute was formed by Dr. Quincy Reinhardt during his Proctor Fellowship. He created it, but it was not initiated. It was on one of their programs. It was not initiated, and we began to have a conversation about an LGBTQIA advisory board for the Proctor Conference, and in that we merged the Mary Russell Social Justice Institute as the LGBTQIA advisory board, and out of that came Rainbow Table Talk, RTT, Rainbow Table Talk, and it was part of the Educational and Training Institute that we put together. We've had many Rainbow Table Talk conversations. One of the things we talked about was trauma-based religion. We talked about HIV and AIDS. We talked about women and HIV and AIDS. We had forums on the Bible Belt and HIV, rates of HIV AIDS. We talked to cisgendered black women, and we found out how it was disproportionately impacted 13 to 14-year-old young men who are diagnosed with HIV and are positive. So that's part of our project, what we did. And now we're moving forward into having teach-ins and with our faith leaders. One of the things I just had an idea for a future Rainbow Table Talk is, do you have a do no harm theology in your church? Do you have a do no harm theology in your church? So we're trying to imagine inclusivity initiative. We're trying to stigmatize LGBTQIA and HIV and AIDS, and we're doing regional work in the South. And so now we have Mary Russell Social Justice Institute. You can contact the Mary Russell Social Justice Institute at sdpcconference.info. We have our QR code there. And this year we're celebrating Pride Prayerdemic 2.0. So we're only meeting on Fridays for Pride Prayerdemic. And just go up to the Facebook page or Instagram for Proctor Pride Prayerdemic. We're moving forward with our work. We're moving forward with this work, and I am grateful to be part of this project and this work. Thank you very much. I don't even get the card, do I? See, I'm good, right? Trying to keep it simple and short.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's give them another round of applause. And if we could have our Lightning Talk presenters back on stage, we'll have a short question and answer session. If anybody has questions, so Dr. Cordovez, Elizabeth, L. Nicole, you all can have a seat, Michael. And if you have any questions for our funded partners, our Lightning Talk presenters, please step to the stand. Any questions?
Just want to say we are so proud of y'all as we have El Nicole making it to the stage. So I have a question. What were some of your biggest challenges in implementing and getting your projects off the ground? And how did you overcome them?
Hello? Hello? Okay. I think one of the most important things to doing excellent work is going to the community and asking, what is it that you need? And so having received the funding and lots of ideas of how to utilize, be good stewards of these funds to really impact the community and what was needed, it was reaching out and having phone calls. And we didn't have I work at a national organization that's focused on interfaith engagement. And our strongest relationships were not at HBCUs and HSIs. And so it was on the team, Reverend Don Abram and myself, to call our colleagues to call our co-presenters, to call our colleagues and say, we've received this grant, what do you and your students and your community need? And so although, there's that proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And so that was a bit of the barrier to start. But once we started, we really took off.
I would say for the Closer Walk project, one of our biggest challenges was explaining how we would use the data that was collected from the focus groups, the ABCD sessions, and the surveys. And once our faith leaders understood how we would use the data, they were very interested and open to it, and now they're looking for phase 2.
You there? Yes, I got it. Thank you. I think that it was just a series of events that took place. And like I said, it became a simple conversation, a DM, because, to the Proctor people, like, what about us? What about LGBTQIA? And then it just began to roll into develop into something else. And we're still working on it. We're still developing. We're still gathering voices, and we're still gathering information. And it's just a whirlwind of events. In the midst of a pandemic, new things arise. So that's the work. We're just trying to get that work done.
For us, a lot of our churches just thought HIV was over. They weren't talking about it. And so it was starting the conversation and also meeting churches where they were and saying, if you're not ready to talk about everything at once, that's okay. Incorporate stigma-reducing language. Let's have a Sunday school class. Let's maybe have a prayer. Trying to find what positive steps churches could take to get involved.
Greetings, Rodriguez Harris, Director of Community Investment with the Southern AIDS Coalition, also a part of the Compass Initiative. Question for you. In doing this work, when you think about faith, HIV, communities most impacted, trauma, intention, impact, what strategies do you all use to ensure that the work that you're doing and taking into communities, great intention, has positive impact, does not create more trauma, does not utilize additional language of hate, when we know faith, HIV, communities most impacted, intention, impact, trauma? What strategies are you using to make sure that you're not further perpetuating the things that people are trying to overcome?
I'll take that one first. One of the things with our strategy, I cannot move faster than the data is provided by the people that I want to implement it to. So with our faith leaders, first thing is, as they're discussing some things during the focus groups and even private sessions, I take that information, and it's the common theme that is coming out of that data is education. So right now we are setting up a plan where there are a series of 5 sessions that they will go through, and once they complete those 5 sessions, and then we'll start preparing them to do awareness and prevention through their church and partnering with community organizations. So, but once again, I can't move faster than the people that I want to impact is willing to move. So.
For our micro grants, well, first, it started with my own learning and attending the Faith Coordinating Center's trainings. And they offer that to their grant partners. And those are almost bi-weekly to learn and engage in the research, exemplary national leaders that have been doing this work for a lot longer than I have, to really learn linguistic barriers, how to create ideal spaces for this type of engagement. And then 2, I'd say our partners. Our micro grants in the application are for teams of 3. And so we encourage people living with HIV and AIDS to be on those teams, to have a student member be a part of that team, and then someone that we call an interfaith champion, so someone that has rapport and has been on the campus for 5 or plus years, to help mitigate some of that, right? That rapport, that relationship, to minimize the opportunity of creating harm.
I will also echo Janet in that we attended the Faith Compass coordinating webinars and learned as much as possible ourselves. We also tried to make sure that any educational materials we were putting out had a person with lived or living experience as the expert on their own lives, training the faith leaders. And also they were a local North Carolina resource for our faith communities. And so the faith communities could ask somebody in their own community a question if need be.
You know, as the Mary Rustin Social Justice Institute is developing, I'm very well aware and very open to other voices. And we are still collecting data and still collecting partners with the Mary Rustin Social Justice Institute to further this cause and to further these voices and to further do the work to adjust what's going on in our communities across this nation. So yes, so I'm very much open to contacting and reaching out and gathering information to expand our information and our trainings.
Buenas tardes, voy a hablar en español, pero me permiten finalizar porque voy a traducir a inglés para aquellos que me están escuchando específicamente en español. La pregunta básicamente es, ¿qué estrategias utilizaron, para los que me están entendiendo en español, qué estrategias utilizaron para poder acceder a aquellas personas que hablaban otros idiomas, no solamente español, pudo haber sido chino? Por supuesto, la respuesta que posiblemente voy a escuchar es que traducieron al idioma correspondiente. Pero mi pregunta básicamente es, además de traducir al idioma, ¿qué otras cosas hicieron? Lo que acabo de, what I just say in Spanish, and I say at the beginning, I want to translate, please, as a way for me, is, for those who are understanding me in Spanish, what strategies do you use to approach, to engage those participants that doesn't speak English and does not just for the Spanish speaker can be Chinese? So, and I say probably the answer gonna be, oh, I translate to the language. My question is, what another strategy plus the translation per se to the language? Because language barrier is not just the language that we speak. Language barrier is so many other things, like faith, like intersections. What other strategies do you use to approach or to overcome those challenges?
Thank you. At least for me, we were very intentional about the team that we created at Interfaith America to launch this project, from our different faith perspectives, lived experiences, and racial, ethnic, linguistic backgrounds. So it was about the team and having this cultural competency even to think about what goes into the grant process, what goes into the RFP, and how do we communicate this to our different campus partners. The other aspect that at least we took at Interfaith America, having a relationship with the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, was to reach out to HAKU and understand a little bit more about HSIs in the South and what would be helpful in sharing resources above and beyond the linguistic translations. What did we need to understand culturally to even communicate that there were grant processes out there, that we had partnered with Wake Forest Divinity School and the Faith Coordinating Center to do that. So those are two things that come to mind for me. One, the team that we assembled at Interfaith America as an organization and what we thought about as we wrote out our different communication and like the strategies behind that. And yes, translation was also included in that. But then secondly, reaching out to our networks that were at the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities that have decades and decades of research and understanding of familismo, Ubuntu, how do we connect with these different communities in the southern U.S.?
And for the Closer Walk project, first of all, I use Google Translate. And after I finish using Google Translate, we do have our documents that do convert over to Spanish. And also with CBF, Cooperative Baptist Fellowship of Mississippi, our headquarters has a Latina network called La Familia. And we use La Familia to connect us to our Latino communities and church leaders in Mississippi.
Just being honest, that's somewhere we've fallen short. We haven't gotten past translation, and it's a real gap in our services.
Good evening. Lieutenant Commander Rodrigo Chavez, ending the HIV epidemic in the United States. We're with the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Health. Our colleagues there, our director, and our public health an analyst. I went into second there. We've done a community assessment here in Region 6. We got 5 states: Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. And everything that you've mentioned here has just been validated because of the work that we've done for the last 2.5 years. I mean, this is the Bible Belt. It's very difficult to engage the faith community. But, well, we can talk for you. I would like to talk to you for hours about what we're doing. But one of the things that, touching back into translation, we made an assessment. We've spoken to about 900 individuals in the last 2.5 years. We don't want to hear translation. We want to hear that documents and products are, that's what they tell us, and I'm going to say it. We want to have documents originated in the language, because there's a lot lost in translation, just like that movie, right? So that's part of what the ask has been, that we create culturally and linguistically appropriate products, correct? So that's one, going back to that comment. And the other one is, also we make recommendations, or my boss makes recommendations directly to the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Health. And one of them is, creating new funding streams. And I heard from all of you that you are all subcontracting. We wanted to hear more about what do you do for self-sustaining efforts once your grant is over? That's one, very key, and everybody talks about it. And what do you do about the haves and the have-nots? Some of your agencies, your lucky agencies are going to get the funding, but others are not. So how are you incentivizing collaboration and bringing everybody to the table so they can, the entire community declare ownership of those funds that go out there? And I mean, we can talk for hours, but we'll be here the next 2 days. Thanks.
I would say for the Closer Walk project, we would love to meet with you because Louisiana is one of my states. Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Kentucky, Illinois, and Tennessee are my states, and I would love to talk with you. And one of the things with Closer Walk, the same way with the gentleman, we can't move faster than those that we are collecting data from. I would love to sit with you so that we can, because we want the population at the table so that they can help us develop the materials and eventually a curriculum, because the people know what the people need. And instead of those that sit behind a desk and saying, this is what you need, and without talking to the people, those days are over. And we need the people coming on the forefront. However, I will say one of the hiccups or holdups in the state of Mississippi is we are still reestablishing that level of trust because of the raid that took place and the people that were immediately taken from their families and were not able to return back home, and they were held in New Orleans, and then they flew them to where they they came from. So we're still trying to get past that level of trust, which is a whole new conversation and conference. But I would love to meet with you.
For our campus partners, as we went ahead to apply for year 2, we allocated funds differently. So to continue the micro grants, but then to also offer larger amounts to help create that sustainability and that infrastructure. So that's not every campus, but it is now written into year 2. The other opportunities that have come with being in the work is other funding sources. Being at a national organization, we're also working at the intersection of public health and interfaith cooperation. And that has allowed other funding sources to come to the organization that can help subsidize some of the work in these different campus partners. And also overseeing another process of a partnership with the American Association of Colleges and Universities at creating campus-wide interfaith excellence. There's other funding sources for these projects to move through. So our Livingstone campus, that was a part of this grantee of interfaith cooperation and destigmatizing HIV and AIDS, is now part of our Institute on Interfaith Excellence network and granting process. And so that's continuing. Another resource to lift up is Dr. Matthews. Since the onset of this funding and this project, she has been a voice and open to meeting with their campus grantees. Now, if they've reached out to her, I am not sure, but of her helping them find larger funding opportunities so that this work does become sustainable and a part of the infrastructure on their college campus.
Awesome. My question is for the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. I attended the conference the year that young seminarians addressed the trustee board around the inclusion, the hierarchy that happened. Do you believe that your efforts now will make this conference more inclusive?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, and I went about not knowing that conversation. I went about not asking or demanding that. All I did was say, hey, basically, hey, what about, and they said yes, because it was time to go from proclamation to practice, and that's our theme. That's what we're working on. And while I know that there have been now as I've had conversations with LGBTQIA people, that there were conversations, but I was so enamored with Proctor, even attending Proctor since 2005, just the conversations and the space, and so I was just, so it became like, no, we're not. I just became like, what about? And to receive the yes, not only was it the yes, because the first thing I said was, I want to do this, I want to do it in the Black aesthetic, and these are the reasons why. Send proposal, come back, the proposal said, no, we're not doing a week, we're doing a month. And now we're not doing a month, we're doing 6 weeks, and you're the host. And so it had opened up, and all the participants in the Proctor Pandemic had really opened up the minds and the vision of the Samuel Proctor Conference, particularly since many of them are on the board or part of the leadership. We're just overwhelmed and just not surprised, but really these voices, they've not heard these voices in that particular format. And to move from that to this is a major step. And PPP last June, Proctor Pride Pandemic, was an historic thing for Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference to even engage and do. And we now know that because Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference has a large network of preachers and theologians. They are looking at us, and as we go from proclamation to practice, other preachers in that network are going to start having these conversations, and also have had these conversations about what does it look like to go from proclamation to practice. How do we get from point A to point B? I had a conversation with a pastor just last week who talked about, maybe we do something for Pride next June or something in between. I was like, okay, yes, because of this work. And because we have opened up this project has opened up many doors, and I'm glad to be a part of this project, and I'm glad for this work. Such a time, everything has a time. You can't run to everything, but we're moving forward.
All right, give them a round of applause. Thank you so much to our funded partners. We hope that this is starting to spark some ideas for you all. Hopefully it's sparking some ideas for collaboration and inspiration for the work that you're doing. I think also to address some of the questions about language and sustainability, I think it is fully within the power of this group for us to advocate for additional funding at the NIH, at CDC, at Gilead, and many other funding sources. It requires collective effort, and it also requires data. We have to be intentional about not just doing the programming, but also collecting the data, evaluating it, showing that it's effective, and being able to use that to say, look at what we're doing, look at the impact, and how the funding will only make that even more amazing. And so I think that's one major thing that we have really been driving home with our funded partners. And of course, as we ask you to take the surveys, we also need data to continue the funding of these programs that we're offering you all. So, thank you again. We are going to move into dinner time. We do have a dinner for our HIV and Faith Advisory Council, which is downstairs in Primos on the first level. And everyone else, dinner on your own. Please get back in your seats and be ready to be inspired and worship together for our opening worship ceremony. We will have Marquin Middleton and the Miracle Chorale, and so many amazing speakers and interactive worship. So please be back in your seats around 6:50. The session will start at 6:55, and we will have a reception after with heavy hors d'oeuvres and heavy drinks, and to honor the AIDS Memorial Quilt that is here. Thank you.